Mom, what's going on? Why are you here?
Such guidance at Tishan's on a cold, windy night in the corner of our family's storage shed. Mom was shivering, wrapped in a thin blanket. As I hurried to Mom, Sandra, my brother's wife, who had appeared behind me unnoticed, grabbed my shoulder with incredible force.
Food is earned by working. That's the rule in our house. Mary's bed has always been here. Can you please not interfere unnecessarily?
Without a hint of remorse, she smirked maliciously. My physically challenged mom silently endured her unreasonable treatment. I was stunned by this bizarre situation. I'm Cheryl. I'm a nearly 30-year-old ordinary woman, born to a serious dad and a kind mom, with a younger brother who's 3 years my junior. Having graduated from college, I've been working in a New York company, living a fulfilling life as a single woman.
I owe this lifestyle to my brother and his wife.
On the plane home, I found myself thinking about my family. Mom, burdened by household chores and work, became increasingly absent-minded, possibly due to the shock of losing her beloved dad, leading to frequent minor injuries like burns and cuts. Just worried about Mom, I considered quitting my job and returning home. But Sandra, my brother's wife, offered to move in with them.
We both work locally, so living together won't be a problem. Leave it to us?
But with brother often away on business trips, won't it essentially be Sandra and Mom living together? Ignoring my concerns, my brother Hudson vaguely smiled.
I think it'll be fine. After all, it's Sandra.
Indeed, Sandra always considered it seemed reliable. Expected by the entire family, she was a competent person. Apparently a junior to my brother, she had a reliability beyond her years, managing a middle school teaching job while keeping the household flawless. Once invited to their apartment, I was amazed at its meticulous organization, akin to a showroom. Despite her perfection, she seemed to hold a lot of respect for me.
Cher looking hard in New York is my role model. You should continue building your career.
Flattered and a bit embarrassed by her glowing words. I honestly thought that if Hudson was the only reliable person back home, I would have quit my job and returned. Honestly, I preferred to build my career rather than be compared to my well-regarded brother's wife and rumored to be an old maid. I was worried about my brother often being away on business trips, but I felt that Sandra could manage living with Mom. Mom is a bit unstable now, but still under 60. There's no need for care. I'm sure it will be fine. Relieved by Hudson and Sandra's words, I decided to leave it to them. Afterward, I got involved in a big project at work and couldn't visit home as often. At Dianoro, I couldn't get a hold of Mom properly, even on my mobile phone. During my first return home in a year, I wondered, is everyone doing well? While my heart fluttered on the plane, little did I know what had become of my family home.
Welcome back. It must be cold, right? Come in, please.
Thanks. I bought a famous souvenir to eat later with everyone. When I handed her the caramel sandwiches, she happily accepted them. We started preparing dinner together, engrossed in our conversation. It was already past 7 p.m. when I realized Mom hasn't returned yet. Does rehabilitation take this long?
So she called a while ago. She'll be back soon.
Really? Maybe I should go pick her up and surprise her. As I eagerly headed to the entrance, Sandra grabbed my wrist so tightly it hurt. What? It's okay. The rehabilitation center will take care of the transportation. Why don't you go?
It's okay. The rehabilitation center will take care of the transportation. Why don't you just wait at home? Shirley?
Sandra's expression was a smile, but there was an undeniable force in her words that took my breath away.
Right, okay.
I returned to my preparations with a forced smile, feeling her piercing gaze on my back. Something was definitely off. It felt like being watched, her behavior secretive, overwhelmed by unease. I quietly slipped out of the kitchen while she was busy preparing dinner. Moving silently, I went to check my parents' room.
White.
I was met with an entirely unfamiliar scene. The bedroom was now orderly, like a showroom, with no trace of my parents' old room. Even the bed was unfamiliar, brand new.
How can this be? Is this really Mom's?
I couldn't believe that Mom would discard the bed she shared with Dad, my gifts, and all our family photos to renovate the room like this. Something was definitely wrong. I walked around our family home, a large traditional single-story house. Through the windows facing the courtyard, I could see Dad's beloved vegetable garden and the old storage shed where we kept unused furniture and tools. It was always a calming, prideful sight during the day, but today, something felt off.
That storage shed, was it always that well maintained?
This house, originally owned by my maternal grandfather, was passed down to Mom. I knew about that shed since childhood, but until last year, it was run down with a crumbling roof and windows. Now it was oddly refurbished. Why would anyone fix up that neglected shed? Brius. I slipped into sandals and moved towards the shed. Just then, Sandra's shout echoed. Startled, I turned to see her panting, glaring at me.
Cheryl, what are you doing?
Sandra's shout echoed. Startled, I turned to see her panting, glaring at me.
It was looking for you since you suddenly disappeared.
Sorry. The garden looked so beautiful covered in snow. I couldn't resist.
I made up an excuse, careful not to let her suspect anything.
Next time, please let me know. It's hard to find you in this big house.
Her smirk sent a chill down my spine, and I took a step back.
Lush Mary's back.
Wait, when did she return? I felt uneasy again. Pictures our house, with its old block fence that has gaps, would have let in the lights from a car's headlights at this time. If Mom had been dropped off from the rehabilitation center, but I saw no such thing. My suspicions grew, and I returned to the living room for the moment. But on the way, I couldn't miss seeing Mom's shoes lined up in front of the storage shed, almost hidden. I was about to learn the harsh reality of Mom's life. Let's eat. The steak is ready, Sandra said, passing me a plate and encouraging me to eat. But Mom was nowhere to be seen, not even her presence. Is Mom? He asked. Don't worry about that. Let's eat first. Did she really just say that? It's a special meal. We can't start without Mom, can we? Seemingly exasperated by my persistence. She's in the kitchen. The kitchen? Why? Mary has her meals in the kitchen. One. I was frozen, unable to comprehend her words immediately. I was stunned by her casual declaration. Unbelievable. I recalled the bedroom and shoes I had seen earlier and rushed to the kitchen. Mom. Oh, welcome back. Cheryl. Looks like responding to my call. Mom turned around with a lifeless expression. She was eating standing up next to the worktop by the stove. Mom, is that you? I was shocked at her appearance. In just a year of not seeing her, Mom had become thin with noticeable white hair. It was as if she had aged a decade. Why? Mom. With your disability? Why? Roaching her. I was even more shocked to see her meal. A small piece of bread, nearly just hot water for tea, and a few small pickles. What is this? I'd Betty. Well, Mom couldn't continue and just stood there. Cheryl, are we done here? Sandra interrupted, appearing in the kitchen. Mom looked down uncomfortably. We have delicious meat. Come on, let's eat. But I shook off her hand and glared at her. What's going on? What do you mean? The apparent lie in her demeanor made my anger boil. Don't lie. Why is Mom eating in the kitchen, standing up with such a meager meal? It's part of her rehabilitation. She said it with a smile, as if nothing was wrong. I was appalled by her terrible behavior.
Mary spends most of her time lying or sitting, so we want her to stand during meals to build strength. And it's a healthy menu, isn't it?
Did she think I would be convinced that the meal and its setup were part of rehabilitation? Is there a problem? Her insinuation left me feeling cold to the bone.
Today is a special day because Cheryl is back. So Mary, please have some canned food and soup too.
What? As I was about to explode with anger, Mom's thanked her. Thank you. I'll take you up on that offer. I was speechless at the unbelievable scene before me. Don't worry. Cheryl, you go ahead and eat. Mom gently pushed my back. It's normal for me to eat here. Normal? I was speechless at the bizarre relationship between Mom and Sandra.
See? Mary agrees. Let's go, shall we? Sandra said, ushering me back to the living room.
Fearing further trouble for Mom, I fell into deep thought.
Let's cheer up and enjoy today's special as Angus beef steak, Sandra said, savoring the meat.
I couldn't enjoy my meal, thinking of Mom in the kitchen. After dinner, I hurriedly finished my bath and offered to clean up, urging her to bathe. Go ahead before it gets cold. Then I'll take your offer. Once she headed to the bathroom, I started searching for Mom again. Where are you? Did Hudson know what kind of life Mom was living? I tried to contact him, but my mobile phone couldn't catch a signal. It's tough to get a connection here when it snows. If he didn't know, I had to inform him. If he knew and did nothing, I couldn't leave Sandra and Mom alone any longer. I decided to take Mom to my apartment, but searching every room. I couldn't find her anywhere. Why could she be? Street, impossible. Then I remembered Mom's shoes in front of the storage shed. I changed into garden sandals and cautiously approached the shed. The shed's door had a simple latch, like a toilet's, and I entered easily. A light? The dusky, musty shed should have had no electricity or water. Yet the back was faintly illuminated, draining my eyes. I saw a familiar bed, the one Mom and Dad used to love. Is this really? In the corner of the shed, an old camping lantern was giving off a weak light. Next to it, on the bed, Mom was wrapped in a thin blanket.
Mom, why are you here?
It was January, and the snow was starting to pile up. I rushed to Mom in a panic. Sandra, who had appeared behind me unnoticed, grabbed my shoulder with incredible force. Mom's lips were blue from the cold, and I had to resist the urge to rush to her. Once, in the guest room, Mom was the first to speak.
I'll sleep on the floor. You take the bed.
What the?
Sandra's not wrong. I haven't been able to do housework for over 6 months because my body won't cooperate.
Mom explained that initially when she moved in with Hudson and Sandra, she tried to help with chores and even looked for a job, but her body couldn't keep up, and she soon gave up. Within a month, Sandra branded her as useless.
I should have died with Dad if I was going to be just a burden.
Mom's words made my throat tighten.
What's wrong with being a burden?
I remembered Mom comforting me when I was a new employee upset over a mistake at work.
I'm useless, right? The company doesn't need me.
Mom, unfazed, said, "What's wrong with being a burden? It's normal for a newcomer like you to make mistakes and be a burden to the company. That's not bad. People are animals that live by bothering others." She smiled warmly, making me tea.
If it's too hard, come home. I'm always on your side.
Her words had been so comforting.
Thanks to Mom, I regained my confidence.
I tried to convey to Mom how much her being alive meant to me. Mom took my hand and started to speak in a trembling voice.
It was really hard. Hudson was too busy to listen to me. My phone was taken away.
Sandra, respected by others, had spread the word that Mom was lazy, cementing an image of a hardworking daughter-in-law and a do-nothing mother-in-law.
Let's escape this life. Actually,
What? I have a plan, but we might have to give up this house.
Mom looked down for a moment but then lifted her face.
I trust you.
The next day, I quietly prepared to leave. I couldn't reach Hudson, but it didn't hinder the plan. After finishing my preparations, I made her an offer. "Didn't you want to go to New York during the upcoming holidays?" I did, but I couldn't find a hotel. "You can use my apartment. I have important work and will be away for a while." "Really, cake of hers?" Sandra's face lit up. When the holidays came, she arrived at my apartment with large luggage. Hudson was away on a business trip, and she was going to enjoy some time alone.
take care then.
"Sure, have a good time at work." I handed her the keys and left the apartment. My destination was my family home. After spending some time with Mom and completing necessary procedures, I finally returned to my New York apartment. The apartment, including dishes and clothes, was unrecognizably tidy. I'd anticipated this. It was part of the plan. But to this extent,
Welcome back. Oh, you're on the phone.
Sandra emerged from the bathroom, drying her head with a bath towel, presumably after a shower. I quickly pocketed the mobile phone I was holding.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Really? Well then, beer after a bath?
It looks like a showroom now.
Right? The old room felt so outdated, almost childish.
Sandra said this nonchalantly, without any remorse.
There's no need to thank me. It's just my way of showing gratitude for letting me stay.
You're mistaken. I'm angry. It's meddling to do things nobody asked for. It's an invasion of privacy when you go this far. Like, wait, don't say such bad things. You invited me, knowing I like redecorating.
She replied with an ambiguous smile.
Timing. I asked. Mom's alone at the house now, right? Is she okay?
Maybe. There's food there.
She said arrogantly, chugging her beer. I pressed on without giving her any room to breathe, asking question after question.
Like that you worried?
Why should I be worried? She irritates me, and I agreed to live together because of that house.
Really?
This. Once Mary is gone, that big house is mine. Honestly, she's just in the way.
I approached her and thrust the mobile phone in front of her.
What?
Her face turned pale as she saw the screen. It was my brother's voice, her husband, on the phone. He sounded furious, even over the phone.
Cheryl, what is this?
She was flustered.
Looks like Hudson heard everything.
The signal is good in New York. I had connected the call to Hudson, who was away on business, and left it on so he could overhear a conversation. With infrequent visits home and being misled by his wife, Hudson had been unaware of the truth. No matter how much the neighbors believed the daughter-in-law, we, her real children, could no longer be deceived. He angrily shouted at her from the other end of the phone. After hanging up, I said, "Hudson is considering divorce. You two need to sort this out." She blamed me.
It's your fault. If you hadn't come back home, if you hadn't interfered with Mary at home, none of this would have happened.
Casito enraged. Soon, alerted by the commotion, the sound of sirens approached, and neighbors might have called the police. Sandra was surrounded by officers, standing there with a pale face. By morning, it seemed Sandra had been released. Hudson's mobile phone rang, and I could hear her angry voice.
What's going on?
What do you mean? What's going on? What's going on?
What's going on? The house, it's gone.
I could understand her confusion. She returned from being released to find the house demolished.
What do you mean? Gone? We're not living together anymore.
What? What do you mean?
Envisioning Sandra's mix of anger and panic, I switched with Hudson on the phone and decided to explain. The day before I returned to New York, Mom and I decided to sell the house and have it demolished. Mom, being the direct descendant of our grandfather, could easily proceed with the sale, while Sandra was leisurely spending time in my apartment. I was supporting Mom and handling various procedures at the family home, and currently, Mom and Hudson live separately, and I have moved out of the apartment, changing my phone number and address.
This is the last call. I'll go through a lawyer for the divorce procedures. Be prepared for that.
Hudson warned her.
Wait, I did nothing wrong. We were living peacefully. Mary and Cheryl are to blame for ruining everything.
Sandra screamed. Mom, quietly listening over speakerphone, finally spoke up. "Stop it. Taking advantage of my compliance. You manipulated my children. I won't be controlled by you anymore." Mom vented her accumulated anger and frustration. Her eyes were fixed intently on one spot. "I was so pathetic causing trouble for my children, but I won't be controlled by you anymore."
You can't do anything. And you're useless.
"Yes, I am. But be happy. You can finally get rid of me." Sandra was speechless at Mom's firm stance. "I'm ready to fight. My daughter has evidence of your misdeeds, and I will testify. The house you wanted is gone. If you don't want to make a big deal of this, just leave quietly." Mom ended the call. We decided to leave further dealings with her to a lawyer. Hudson and Sandra's divorce was finalized, and we obtained a restraining order against her. According to our lawyer, after being involved with the police, her bad reputation spread in the neighborhood and at work, leading to her resignation. She was a perfectionist to an extreme, and there was already dissatisfaction among her students and their parents, so no one tried to stop her departure. Now, she's visiting a psychiatrist and changing part-time jobs frequently. Hudson started living alone, and Mom moved in with me, attending rehabilitation. She enjoys going back to her hometown during long breaks, having tea with neighbors with whom the misunderstandings were cleared. As for me, I continue to find fulfillment in my work, but with Mom at home. I'm greeted with delicious meals, and I'm grateful every day. If I ever marry, I'll choose someone who values family, a promise I've made with Hudson, who also remains single.